I think when people hit this video, we don't even have to mention what we're talking about right now, but something quite bad is happening, isn't it? Come on, guys. It really is. 2020. Well, didn't think this would quite be happening, but it just seems that our economies are crashing. And, through something that isn't really happening. They're calling it a virus and they're calling it all these things, but I'm not saying I see it exactly like this next person who's going to talk, but I've had many hangouts with him in the past, and a lot of what he's saying is the truth. Our economies are crashing. I just find it awful. But anyway, I'm going to add a link where this whole hangout is. This is a section of it, and I hope that you listen to it and hear what he's saying, and it just helps us along this horrible journey wherever we're being taken. I mean, I just wanted to say that I watched a video got sent to me. It was people queuing for toilet paper. Now, the toilet paper came out, so say there are 10 packs of 9 rolls, because they're usually 9 in the UK. You've got, or even 20 packs of 9 rolls, all cellophane together. They stick out this pallet of toilet rolls, and about 8 people come in and just take the whole lot. The shop didn't say, what we're going to do is you can only take 1 pack or 2 packs. Yes, it wouldn't last very long, but a lot more people would get the toilet paper. So everything else is in the shops. We're just talking about toilet paper. But this is what I think they kind of do. Then they will take that piece of footage and they will tell the rest of the world that we are now queuing for food. That's what they'll do. Just like they show you all these people are queuing for food in other countries in this matrix of thing. This whole thing has been set up. It is happening because this is what they want. The UK thought they were getting their shores back when we voted to come out of the European Union. All a game I showed on this channel. See what this channel is about. See, there's masses of this earlier on in the channel. I've just changed the subject now by coming to more of what's going on in front of us in the layers of things. And then, of course, we've got all the stuff we can't even talk about because we don't know where it's come from and how long it's been. Look at this. What's going on in our skies. The space, what a load of rubbish that is. These lies have been going on for a really long time. In the more modern, because I tried to go and find what I was looking for, but I couldn't because it doesn't go that far on the channel. It just doesn't go that far. But anyway, we're up to here. Look what we're talking about today. It's all just a bunch of this. Anyway, what I'm going to do is play the video now, and I hope this helps people.
Welcome back, everyone. Welcome to our V2020 vlogs, our Pineal V2020 vlogs. Today's going to be a very, very special broadcast. There is so much information that I am just dying, literally, to share with you guys. It's been an eventful week. It's been pretty hectic and pretty intense, as you all know. We're all experiencing this energy. Everyone. This is happening to everyone. So I don't really need to go too much into that. Let's just get straight into it. and not waste any time. Whew, where do we start? Where do we start, Robin? Getting
I
this whole
think
thing
that
is
let's just
so
do, maybe
twisted
we should
inside
start
out.
by doing a recap of the week. Just kind of like maybe just recap how we sort of observed this whole thing unfolding to their Friday the 13th ritual date that we talked about on Sunday, and then just move forward maybe as the downloads had come through, you know?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay.
That sounds good. I just want to start off by saying, when I did the Corona video, I said that this whole coronavirus thing would disappear and things would get back to normal in a few weeks. I'm not so sure anymore, if I'm being honest with you. I might have been a little bit off with that prediction. I personally cannot see us going back to normal after this. In fact, it's impossible to go back to normal. Certainly financially, I think they put in a stimulus last week. I think it was 22 trillion or something, quite a bit. Already half of it has sunken. Already half of it has disappeared, basically, has been swallowed with all these, with the lockdown, the world lockdown. Obviously, there's no commerce happening at the moment, so it's just pretty much frozen the whole socioeconomic system. So I just cannot see how anything is going to go back to normal. And that's what I want to talk about today. I want to sort of outline a timeline of how I now see things going forward based on this new trajectory that we're going through. Based on what Robin was saying, going back from what we were saying last week we spoke about dealing with the reality of what's happening. Look, guys, once again, yes, we're all spiritual. Yes, we all know we're spiritual beings having a physical existence. We all know this is an illusion. We all know it's not real. We all know we shouldn't be living in fear or anxiety. We know this. That's fine. But there is also a physical reality that we must deal with, obviously, because we are currently living within a physical reality. We're here on earth. We're here on earth to experience, to learn, to grow, to share, and then eventually we move on to something new, a new experience. The whole point of being on earth right now is not for us to run away from our reality. It is not for us to ignore our physical reality. The whole point of being on earth as a human being, or as any being in any realm, is to conquer whatever experiences, difficult or good, that you experience. That is the whole point of it. I'm going to reiterate what I said last week about this new age spiritual programming, because it is programming. It's almost like a religion that almost dictates that because you're spiritual, you must ignore the darkness. You must pretend everything is all beautiful all the time. Bad difficulty or adversity. That is a programming to disempower human beings. It is actually the opposite. When you become spiritual, you should actually learn to face the darkness and conquer it, not ignore it or run away from it. That is not how you conquer anything. You must become a spiritual warrior. And it's not about protesting or fighting or arguing or panicking, not at all. It's about acknowledging the problem, facing it, dealing with it in our own ways, because we're all in different situations. We are all in different, we all have different circumstances. So the way we deal with our darkness is different. We're all at different stages as well along the journey. But certainly we must deal with whatever darkness we're facing. Right now, we're all facing and about to face a collective darkness. We're all about to face a collective darkness, and that is a reality. There is no sugarcoating it. There's no pretending that everything is beautiful and perfect, because it is quite evident that we're entering a very difficult period for us all, physically, within this realm, and possibly within all the realms. We're shifting. We're changing seasons, as we've been talking about for the last 6 months or so. So I just want to emphasize that. I've had loads of people sending me emails again this week, you know, asking me why I'm talking about negative things. I'm supposed to be spiritual. I'm supposed to just sing la 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 and kumbaya all the time and not point any light on the darkness. And I'm sorry, I'm not going to compromise. In times of war, because we are at war right now, this is war. It's a spiritual warfare. This is when the spiritual warriors must step up. We are spiritual warriors. This is when we should step up, not hide or ignore or run away. This is the time to stand up and be counted. More than ever. It's really important that those of us who are on this journey, those of us who are positives, it's really important that we stand up, we shine a light on the darkness in a positive light, not negatively, but it's really important that we stand up and we shine this light on the darkness. And this is the only way that we can get through this individually and collectively.
So yeah, just some of the comments that were popping in, I wanted to share with you. Just, you know, yeah, I think that, you know, information is power. Regardless, even the worst information, you know, is power. So anyway, I just thrown that in. Go ahead, Martin. Back to you.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I mean, you know, again, going back to what we were saying last week, I'm not going to go over and over it. I just want to just gloss over this as quickly as I possibly can. But there are certain things that must happen. There are just certain facts of life that cannot be changed. You know, for instance, I don't care how much mental power you have, how much positivity you have, no matter how much you say in your head, the sun does not exist. The sun does not exist. The sun won't stop existing just because you believe it's going to stop existing. The sun will always rise. The sun will always be there. It is just an objective truth. It's an objective fact. It cannot be stopped. It cannot be controlled. So there are certain objective truths that must happen. It's all part of the game. It's all part of the cycle. The trick now, once you become a player character in the game, once you start to take accountability and responsibility for your journey, once you become a living soul, as they say, once you become alive, once you become Pinocchio, the trick is to now learn how to play the game. And the way you know how to play the game is by learning to preempt what the objective truths are and when they play out. This is the whole game. This is how these elites run this realm. They understand these objective truths. They know what happens when, or what is supposed to happen when. So they are able to preempt in advance. They're able to plan in advance. They're able to put things in place way in advance because they know what's coming. They know what energies are bringing in what kind of frequencies, so they act accordingly to their advantage. Now, those of us who are positives, we're only starting to wake up to this now. We're playing catch up. So it's important for us, first of all, to acknowledge that there are certain things that are just going to happen, that must happen. Because we're behind and we're playing catch up, we're almost trying to counteract or react rather to a situation that we do not have control over. This realm is currently being controlled by, let's call them the negatives. Right? They're the majority rule right now. We, the positives, all we can do is preempt what the negatives are going to be doing, right? In tandem with what the astrological energies are at the moment. And by doing that, we do two things. One, we empower ourselves through that knowledge. I would rather see the train coming than be hit by the train without seeing it coming. I'd rather see it coming in advance. If something's about to happen, I'd rather know what's going to happen before it happens, even if there's nothing I can do about it. It's at least peace of mind. I can prepare mentally, I can prepare spiritually, whatever, even if I can't prepare physically, at the very least. On the flip side of that, most of the time, we can prepare. Once you know what's coming, you can prepare physically, mentally, and spiritually. If you know there's an economic crash coming, for sure, 6 months in advance, you can do things accordingly. I'll buy gold, I'll do this, I'll do that, I'll put things into place. And when that thing happens, you're prepared, right? You're in a better situation than most people who had no idea what's about to happen. This is why these hangouts, these discussions are super important, because they help us prepare in whatever ways that we can, individually and or collectively. So we are going to talk about these things, even if they sound scary at the time, which a lot of people will, there are a lot of people who are very empathic or very sensitive, who do not like to hear bad news, who do not like bad things, who are not maybe spiritually strong enough to face the darkness. Unfortunately, we're living in an era, we're living during times of change. And all great change has to go through chaos and confusion. No change is ever smooth. When you're moving house, we've all moved house, I'm sure. When you're moving from one house to another, there is always chaos. There is always confusion. You lose your keys, you forget this happens, that happens. There's always chaos when you shift or when you move. So what about such a monumental movement that is happening now? This shift that is happening on a worldwide scale in all aspects of our reality. Obviously, the confusion and the chaos is going to be huge, humongous. So we must face it and prepare for it. And going with that analogy, because we're in a game, you're one of two things. You're either playing the game, you're a player character, or you're a non-player character. You're one of the two. You're either playing or you're not. If you are a sheep in the matrix and you're just following what the government says, you're a non-player character. You're not playing, you're just following. You're on cruise control. If you're spiritual and you are just philosophizing and just singing Kumbaya and not participating on the grand stage, you're a non-player character. Now, I could be here at Pineal. I could just ignore the whole world. I could. And just live here on my own, quietly with my family, just ignore the whole world and just wait for things to happen. If I die tomorrow, I die. Whatever happens, happens. I could do that. I become a non-player character, an NPC. I have no control over my game, let alone the game. Right? So what we're trying to do here is we're trying to become player characters. Individually, within your own life, but also collectively. This is what this is about. When we talk about the New World Order, we always say this phrase, the New World Order. When you really look at that word, what does that mean? A New World Order is on the horizon. New, something new. World implies everyone that is in this realm, on this earth. And order means structure. So New World Order just means a new structure to the world. The world is being restructured. As such, if the world is being restructured, do you want to be part of the management team that is going to restructure the world? Or not? Now, I want to be part of the management team. I want to be part of the New World Order. I want to have a say in this new order of the world in whatever way that I can. Whether it's individually, whether it's my small circle of influence of people that I know, whether it's on a world stage, I want to have a say of some sort somewhere. I want to be a player character. And I want everyone that I know who's a positive to be a player character. I want everyone that I know to have an influence on this new world order. It's a game of numbers. So part of it is kind of like a negotiation. When I make videos a lot of the time, I know every single video that I make is an indirect negotiation with somewhere, with someone somewhere who is a controller. They know. They are keeping tabs of everything. When we put something out into the ether field or the internet, it has a ripple effect on some degree somewhere. So every time we preempt something, or every time we shine a light on a darkness on the internet, we are changing the course of that direction. We are influencing the result of what that thing might have been, just because we spoke up. Remember, silence is consent. If you're quiet, you are agreeing to whatever someone else is reordering within the world. Now, right now, we're so lucky to be alive. We're so lucky to be in this realm because we're at a stage where we have the opportunity to truly, truly restructure the world from scratch. Everything is being scratched and reordered from ground zero. Finance, culture, language, countries, everything, socioeconomic system, everything is being restructured. We have an opportunity to rewrite the story for the next 2,000 years. The decisions we are making today or in the next couple of years will influence the reality of this realm for the next 2,000 years. This is how freaking important this is. This is how huge and monumental this time we're living in is. It's a time to celebrate. It's a time we must revel in this beautiful, beautiful, magical time that we're in. And I know it seems scary because change is always scary. The unknown is scary. And also because we've been pampered. We're lazy. That's the truth. How many of us have known what was coming, but didn't do anything? How many of you listening now knew that there'll be an economic crash one day and didn't buy gold when you had your savings? You chose to go on holiday. You chose to buy something silly that didn't matter. And this week, or certainly in the coming weeks, you'll be panicking. Should I buy gold? Should I do this? Should I do this? You will react. Right? So there are many factors contributing to this, but the main thing to remember, guys, is that this is a very special time. And every time you're feeling anxiety or overwhelmed, just remember that what is happening today is going to influence this realm at least for the next few thousand years. Or 100 years at least, for the next few hundred years, at least, at the very least. Now, having said that, whatever we're going to talk about today, this is a quick disclaimer. And I know Robin is the same, and anyone else who contributes, we are not claiming to know everything. We're not claiming to have all the answers. We're not claiming that this is exactly how things are or exactly how things are going to play out, right? We are trying to shed some light on the situation based on what we know, based on our gnosis, on our research, on our intuition. And with this information, take it as a guide, not as a religious factual truth. It's a guide to guide you to make the right decisions now and in the future when certain things happen. You will recognize them. Now, a good example is, I certainly have been saying since 2017 that in the year 2020, chaos is going to begin. Madness is going to begin. Everything is going to be flipped upside down. Yeah? I made some predictions. Some of them were bang on. Some of them are slightly off. Some of them are wrong. But generally, there is chaos. And I'd like to think a lot of people who've been listening in and been following our work, certainly even in this group, are prepared, if not psychologically and mentally. I think we should crack on with the juicy bits now. What do you think, Robin?
Yes, I definitely do. And just one quick, let's say just squeaking in at 10,000 are basically essentially in the same category of a Bill Gates or a Beyonce or someone who has millions and millions, and of course, Gates billions. So look at the disparity of 5% between 10,000 and billions. And you don't think that that's a part of the game structure? That's a part of the algorithms that has been written into this game at this point? That's just mind-boggling to me. So I just want to throw that statistic out as we start thinking about this. Like as you were saying, Martin, when we make the choices in the past did not have been prepared for this, those controllers absolutely know that they've put people in the position of not being prepared. So if we have this thing that goes on for the next 2 or 3 months, how quickly people who have 10,000 will go through that, not to mention people who have far less, like paycheck to paycheck. So let's just keep that in mind as we move forward and talk. Okay, Martin.
Yeah, so that's a good place to start. Let's talk about finance. Let's talk about what's happening with the financial system. That's a really, really obviously pressing issue considering what's happening in the world. And it's also an issue that affects us on our day-to-day lives. You know, currency, money is the currency that keeps this whole game going at the moment. You cannot do anything without currency. You cannot eat, you cannot live, you can barely breathe without having money. Exaggeration, but you get what I'm saying. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about money. So I'm going to make a prediction. I'm going to predict that the economy is going to collapse, like I said, within the next 2 weeks. I have a feeling tomorrow there's going to be a big announcement when the stock market opens. And this coming week is going to be extremely, extremely telling. I also believe, again, it's a belief, I also believe that there is already a plan in place for when the economy collapses. In fact, I'd like to say I know. There is a plan in place for when the economy collapses. There is already a currency that is waiting to be bankrolled to bail out the world, if you like. So this is a scenario that I'm seeing. I'm seeing a scenario where, let me rewind. I've just done a script. I'll be releasing a video, in fact, straight after this hangout. So those of you listening in on Patreon, on the delayed version, or on YouTube, you'll have already received this information beforehand. But anyway, I'll just say it as first-hand information for those who are listening in on the chat now. If I was running the world and I wanted to collapse the system, the fiat currency, because it needs to go, obviously, as we all know. If I wanted to do that, there are certain things that I would need to put in place in order for that transaction or transition to happen as smoothly as possible. So the first thing that I would have to worry about, obviously, is chaos. You'd want to do it as smoothly, as quickly as possible, with the least amount of disruption to your property. Right? You'd also want to do it in a way you need a fallout guy. You need a trigger. You need something to blame, because you don't want the masses to blame you if you're the controller. You don't want people to come after you. So you need something else that you can use as an excuse. This is what the coronavirus is about, partly. Right? The coronavirus is being used for many things, but this is one of the main things. Okay, on a physical level. There's a spiritual side, which you spoke about, you know, in my corona video. This is now the physical side. So the coronavirus is perfect because what you do is you release a contagious viral disease, or at least the idea of one. It doesn't have to even exist. You just have to make people believe that it exists. You then make sure people are in quarantine. Everyone's afraid. Lockdown. Go home. Stay in your houses or you will die. Once you've done that, what happens? The economy suffers because there's no commerce, especially if it's already fragile like it is now. The economy starts to tank. At that point, when it does tank, who do you blame? Well, the virus, of course. The world collapsed because of the coronavirus. It was nobody's fault. It wasn't the bankers. It wasn't the government. It was the virus. Because no one was working. There was no commerce happening. There was no trade. So the economy collapsed. So that solves your problem of having a fallout guy and a trigger. So the fallout and the trigger here is the coronavirus. The other advantage of an epidemic like this is that everyone is in quarantine. So tomorrow, if we wake up and they say the economy is collapsed and people lose their shit, there's not much they can do because you're under lockdown anyway. You're in your homes. You can't start going and looting and knocking on the door of government or going crazy in the streets because you're in your homes. Yeah, there's not much you can do. You're at home anyway. All you can do is watch the system collapse from inside the safety of your home on your television. This is what's happening. I am pretty sure of this. So when the economy collapses in the next week or two, it's unlikely there'll be mass riots and looting and protests because everyone's on lockdown. This will allow the governments to implement or enforce whatever they need to enforce this new world currency with very little resistance or noise, which in a lot of ways is a good thing, actually. So I'm seeing this. I'm seeing the economy collapsing. I'm seeing them coming out and saying, this has happened because of the coronavirus. The economies have tanked. Everything's gone to shit. I'm seeing them saying the world governments are getting together at the UN over the next couple of days. We're all going to get together. We're all in this together. After all, the coronavirus has affected the whole world. The financial crash has affected the whole world. So the solution needs to be for the whole world, i.e. a new currency for the whole world, a one world currency, which of course they already have. We all know that the current currency or the current system is a fiat system. It's based on nothing. In 1970, whatever it was, 74, I think, they removed the gold standard. And all the gold was hoarded. This has been planned since, it's been planned since the beginning. This is all premeditated. This whole thing has been planned from day one. So they removed the gold standard in 1974 for a reason, for this reason. They started hoarding all the gold in vaults, obviously, reserves. Yeah. They started printing or planning for a new currency. And I think this is a physical currency to begin with. It will be a cash currency. So there is new printed paper money that is waiting to be rolled out right now. And I have inside sources, which I cannot disclose, but I have inside sources who know this firsthand, who are involved in this, directly and indirectly. There is money waiting to be released that will be backed by the gold reserves of the world. So these governments will get together at the UN to solve A, the coronavirus, and B, most importantly, the financial crash. Of course, the solutions will be quite obvious. One, vaccinations. We need to make sure everyone on earth is vaccinated, right? To stop the spread of the coronavirus, to protect the world so that people don't die out. We also need a system to track people's health. How about a chip, an ID chip, a 2020 ID chip that is connected to an app that can track your health, whether you have the coronavirus or not? This is what I'm seeing them announcing. And finally, a new currency. Let's all print a currency, which is already done. One currency that we can all work with. Let's all put our golds together, all the countries in the world. Let's put our golds together. Let's print one currency for the whole world, and let's start again, day one. Let's start afresh. They will then announce to the world, everyone, we're now writing off all the debt in the world. If you have a mortgage, it's written off. If you have debts, it's written off. No one is in debt anymore. We're now introducing a new currency to start from scratch. Everyone will be given a benefit or an allowance by your local governments to get you going. It might be an exchange of what you have in your bank already, or it might be a standard blanket amount for everyone. I'm sure they'll have some sort of system in place, or they already have a system in place. However, for you to receive this benefit, we need to make sure you are vaccinated and you have the health chip. This is where the mind games begin. So a lot of people who are not self-sufficient will have no choice because you have no money now. Do I A, go for the vaccination and take the chip and get this money to get me going so I can buy food for my family and pay my rent and pay my whatever it is I need to pay for fuel? Or do I go it alone? Do I reject that and make a plan for myself elsewhere? This is the dilemma a lot of people are going to have. I think they're going to use this new currency to hold people ransom. People who are not independent, people who are not self-sufficient, people who are heavily reliant on the system. And it was designed that way. This is why we're slaves. When the slave master say jump, we jump. Unless you're free and you free yourself. I think this is the crossroads that we're meeting. Now, if you were proactive and you bought gold beforehand, you've got an option. You do not need to go for the vaccine. You do not need the microchip. All you do is trade in your gold, which you have, for the new currency. You can bypass the carrot that they're dangling. And you can buy this new currency or exchange your gold for this new currency because it's gold backed. So whether you have gold or this new currency, it's the same thing. And in fact, if you've got gold, you're even more beneficial because the value of your gold will probably be worth a lot more than the rations or the money that they're giving out, the dough that they're giving out, the allowance that they're giving out. So a lot of people who have gold will become millionaires, if not billionaires, overnight. This is how billionaires are made during resets. For instance, if they say we're going to give everyone 10,000 credits of this new money, 10,000 UN dollars, let's say, let's call them UN dollars, 10,000 UN dollars to everyone. And 10,000 UN dollars is the equivalent of 10 ounces of gold or 10 grams of whatever it is. Let's say 10 ounces of gold. Of course, if you've got 50 ounces of gold, you are richer than everyone else in the world.
I'll just jump in because I think Martin might have gone out there. So while he's cycling back in, 100.
Anyway, there is some food for thought there. I'll put a link to this whole hangout if you want to go and listen to it. But I just thought it was best to help give some information. This is what's happening. Anyway, it is something like this. Anyway, leave your thoughts below.